Bingo bongo.
Bingo, bongo. We are recording.
Do it.
Kicking off with Fly and Casey talking to Zach Molzer today. And the reason that I wanted these two cool cats to get together is I both met them because of the internet. And they are both in their early 20s, working in this industry, playing by their own rules. And I just thought that these two kids should get together. And I say kids, you're not kids, but
I'm a kid.
I want to know why, and these are questions that I have for Casey very often. I want to know why and how you became who you are. And Casey has some, I think, really nuts and bolts questions into what you're actually doing. But let's talk high level for just a second, very quickly. Who are you? What do you do? And why are you doing it?
Yeah, my name is Zach Molzer. I started a firm called Molzer Development in March of 24. Born and raised here in Kansas City, went to the University of Nebraska for my undergrad, and I want to create the next generation of sustainable housing across my city and beyond. That's the game plan.
Why do you want to do that?
I mean, housing is much needed across the country, as everyone knows. I mean, there's a big housing shortage, and I think the other problem that you have with that is many developers are building crap, not caring about what the end goal of the product is, who the actual renter is going to be. Everybody deserves a nice place to call home that they love. When I was in college, I lived in this apartment that I loved, and if I was still living in Lincoln, Nebraska, I would still be living there. It was nothing special. It was just awesome, and I thought then that was when I first made that mindset and change of like I can do this on a bigger scale and a bigger level in my city, and then also beyond. But yeah, everybody deserves a place that they love.
How can it be nothing special and also awesome?
I don't know. I'm telling you, it was nothing. I mean, it really wasn't anything special. It's not like it was like fancy by any means. It was well located. I couldn't hear my neighbors because there were good walls built. I mean, it was also college, so let's take that. Let's throw that in there. So it was fun. I don't know. It really wasn't anything special. It was just I loved it. It was badass.
Before I throw you to Casey, I'm curious to know, and maybe the two of you will get into this, but when you talk about other developers and what they're doing and what you want to do and are doing, what would you say then are the biggest differentiators and between you and them, and why are you able to tap into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the perk of being young is in doing urban infill development projects and also greenfield eventually is I know the renters better than anyone else. You know, I always make a joke, like it's kind of funny seeing a 60-year-old developer develop student housing. They haven't been in college in 40 years. So they don't know. My girlfriend had in her kitchen at her 4-bedroom, 4-bath apartment in college, there was one drawer in the kitchen. Like there was a million different ways you could have laid out that kitchen to have 2 drawers even. And it's just funny to me. And so whether that be having taller toilets, whether that being a real emphasis on water pressure, on efficient units for the kitchen, you know, people that are 22 to 30 years old, we're in a society where people don't cook as often. It's just a fact. So if you can save space, making it a more efficient unit, having larger bathrooms, larger closets, in highly amenitized areas where when people want to have friends over, they're not necessarily hanging out in their unit. They're hanging out in all the different amenity spaces where they don't have to leave the building if they don't want to, outside of work, and creating an environment where they can work from home. And it's not only enjoyable, but it's highly productive for them.
I really appreciate what you said about being attuned to the needs of the people that you're trying to serve, because you are essentially one of the people that is in that bracket or in that
I get to help
demographic.
develop something in a sense for myself a little bit, which is interesting and cool.
Yeah. So, Casey, I'm going to toss it to you because I feel like we're getting really zoomed in on the details, and you, I know, have been looking at Zach's work and are curious about how he's gotten to the point that he has.
Yeah, Zach, I'm curious. I mean, I'm 24 years old. I'm kind of trying to do my own stuff in real estate. Like, curious to hear when you said, "Hey, I think I can do this." What made you think that? What skill set, what experiences did you have? Because development is not an easy job, and it's even harder when you're 24. And There's the design part, there's the construction part, there's finance. What skills and experiences kind of prove to yourself that, hey, I think I can do this?
I'm always learning. So I worked for a developer for about 18 months right out of college. Learned a lot of his throwing into the fire type vibes, doing everything from acquisitions, capital raising, finding the deal, putting together the capital stack, helping out with overseeing construction, lease up, all of that. And I learned a lot doing that, but I've learned a hell of a lot more over the past 9 months just going out and doing it on my own. It really is like as simple as sink or swim. People are like, how'd you figure out how to do this? Like, oh, I just did. It's just one of those things where you have the end goal in mind of, like, for example, with the Aladdin, the end goal is develop a project that is profitable, that people love to call home, and is making money, right? That's the end goal. Well, there's a lot of steps that go on a lot before that. So then you work yourself backwards. Like, for example, working backwards, it's how do we get to the development closing? So how do we get all the financing? How do we get to the point where we can start construction? Well, then you back into that where, yes, you have your architect, your engineer, your surveys, your capital partners, raising funds, finding a land or a building. There's so many different little steps that you just learn along the way and you figure it out. I mean, it was one of the things, being a developer is not as hard as most people make it sound. The biggest challenge is forming a team of like-minded people that all share the same vision at the end. And that's between your architect, your engineer, your general contractor, your investors, your bank partner, your historic tax credit lender. It's everyone. You're just the glue that keeps everyone together, which sometimes can be interesting as a 23-year-old that is in a sense in charge. You have to make sure that everybody is all aligned vertically.
Gotcha. That's a great answer. And I'm curious on when you're assembling this dream team of, we'll think of it of superheroes. Everyone's got their superpower. One, what is your superpower when it comes to that? You mentioned being the glue. Is there a specific skill set that you really rely on to make these deals happen, whether it's finance related or construction related?
That's funny. Yeah. So my partners on the Aladdin, we all have a role, and that is get the project across the finish line. But we all divide and conquer. My role on the team is called the cat herder. When I just herd the cats, make sure everybody's on the same page, running everything, overseeing a lot of the construction and design aspect. I am not the one handling the books. If I was handling the books, then no investor would ever invest. Max is handling the books, Hunter's asset management, Ben's helping out with the investor relations and capital stack. Joe's expertise in the general contracting field is unbelievable. So I'm just the glue that gets to do it all and herd the cats together again for the common goal of getting the project done.
And
sorry.
no, go ahead, Fly.
How did you meet all these people? Like all you boys, where'd they come from?
Oh, I think you know. So I met Max 2 years ago on Twitter. Max was working for a large historic tax credit developer up in Milwaukee. We've been looking at different deals and opportunities together. Obviously, then got introduced to his partner, Hunter and Ben. Joe, I met at a city council meeting here in Kansas City about a year and a half ago. And yeah, it was just one of those things where I knew that the Aladdin was a big project. And when I was first putting it under contract, I was, okay, how do we formulate a team to get it together, from the financing, from who can sign on the debt, who can help with the general contracting stuff and ask the right questions to the general contractor. Like, again, you figure it out. And you have to have a lot of trust in the people that you bring on as a part of the team. But yeah, I mean, having those different people that know the right questions to ask has helped a ton.
How did you figure out that they were the right people to ask those questions?
Trust. I mean, just working alongside them, and I want to say vetting them, but good people are good people, and good people can help get the results that you want. And everybody that's a part of the Aladdin project team, from my partners to the architect, everyone involved, it's just surrounded by good people, and that goes a long way.
It's a vibe.
Zach, on the other side of that interaction, what do you think stood out to your partners in saying, hey, I think I can trust Zach? Were there certain instances or certain scenarios that come to mind where they said, hey, at this point, I knew you were the right fit for me?
It is kind of funny. So I brought on my partners, Max and Hunter, first, and we put the building on, we put the building under contract before they even tour the building. They didn't even know what it looked like. And they just trust me. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm very passionate and very outgoing. And when I want something, I'm going to find a way to make sure it gets done right. I don't sleep a whole lot just because I get excited and I can't. And so I don't think it's one specific instance where that trust was formed. Trust is obviously is earned, not given. And for whatever reason, they all trust me. And the same reason why, the 35 different LPs that are involved in this project trusted all of us as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome. And let's talk a little bit about the Aladdin since we've brought it up a couple times. Tell me a little bit about what that project is from a scope of work, from a, hey, this is all the weird things we got to solve for, and also what it means to you personally. I think it's your first big project that you're doing yourself. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Aladdin is on 12th and Wyandotte, right in the heart of downtown Kansas City, the Power and Light District. It was built in 1925 as a historic hotel / apartments. It was the tallest building in Kansas City when it was first built. Closed abruptly due to COVID, was the straw that broke the camel's back. Was under contract by a couple different groups throughout those next 3.5 years. Right place, right time. Was able to acquire the Aladdin with plans to convert it to apartments. That was in March. We closed on the building at the end of May. And all said and done, Aladdin will consist of 122 apartments right in the heart of downtown, a top floor cocktail bar, and over 20,000 square feet of amenity space for the residents. So it'll be about a $39 million project. We have our development closing the second week of January, our wall breaking celebration with the city, January 22nd. And we're full steam ahead with an estimated completion date of May of 2026. That's the high level on the Aladdin.
It's pretty high level, and not in the sense of like that's the perspective that you're speaking from, but just that, I mean, it's awesome.
It's pretty cool.
Like
Yeah, so
when
everything in the building's gutted. I mean, in a sense, there's obviously some historic items because we're utilizing historic tax credits. And there's marble floors, marble columns, terrazzo floor. There's some really, really cool aspects of the project. Outside of that, though, floors 3 to 15 are non-historic. And so we're completely gutting it. When the project's done, we're not taking 2 hotel rooms and combining it to one. It is going to be an empty shell. So it'll have all new plumbing, HVAC, electric, fire suppression, windows, walls, elevators, doors, you name it. When we're done with demolition, you'll be able to see from one end of the building all the way to the other end on a 16-story, 115,000 square foot building, which is pretty crazy.
and you're documenting it all.
Yes, yeah, that's the other part about what I'm building at Molzer Development is building in public. Development is traditionally a very hush-hush world, and while there's pros and cons to building in public, I view it mostly as a pro. Being able to document and show everyone every step of the way, the good, the bad, the ugly. That all that content will start once the development closing happens, and we're able to share what the hell actually was going on over the past 8 months, because people just assume that everything just falls into place and it's all fine and dandy. But it took a village, a very, very large village.
Okay, 2 follow-up questions to those points. Why is it important to you to build in public? And the second question is, what about the last 8 months haven't you been able to show? I guess maybe you can't answer that question, but like why? Like
Yeah, I'll start with the latter one. With historic tax credit projects, it's just different. There's a bunch of different governmental agencies involved from the state level, from the federal level, and until everything's buttoned up and everything's financed and in place and you can start, they just prefer you don't talk a whole lot about it. Granted, everyone knows about the Aladdin project. I mean, don't get me wrong. Everyone in Kansas City and beyond, there's definitely a certain buzz about it right now, which has been awesome. But there's just certain things you can't talk about yet, like what has been transpiring, what's going on, what stage the process is in, yada yada. They just get a little kerfuffled sometimes, but we're pumped to be able to do that in about a month.
And then the other question is, why is it important to you to build in public?
To show people that it's not all butterflies and rainbows. It's not always fun, but showing the good, the bad, and the fun. I mean, I have a lot of fun. We mess around a lot, and we're making content. We're doing all that. And it's a blast to show people, hey, this is what goes on in a full-fledged construction project, a full-blown development project, everything that's been going on. I think that the main reason why I love to be able to build in public is I think it's going to open the doors to unlimited opportunities for new projects, new investors, new partners, and even the individuals that have nothing to do with construction, nothing to do with development. They don't even care, but they do care about being able to see old buildings like this brought back to life. Those types of individuals are gonna love what we're gonna be able to put out for this project from start to finish and beyond. People follow people. People don't follow a brand. They like the brand, and the brand can be associated with the person. But people follow people, and I like to think I'm a fun person most of the time.
I think, well, you are. Yeah, that is something that Casey and I have spoken at length about, and continue to speak about on the podcast, is that people are the foundation of this entire industry, and the people who know that and engage with that are the people who are totally going to smash.
Yeah.
Casey.
Yeah, I think you're preaching to the choir on building in public there. I also want to call out that I think that's what the next generation of real estate developers are going to need to be. I think over time there's been a lot of, the real estate developers, almost the villain half the time, and they're fighting neighborhoods and
Amen.
commissions and stuff. And I think you're doing your part in actually building the community physically, but also like saying, hey, we're a community here. Like, I'm taking significant risk, significant financial risk.
And I think it's
for
important for
this.
people to see that. Exactly. Like to say like, hey, this is not just, oh, we're building this building, we're gonna get rich. It's like, no, it's not that. It's not as simple as that. I don't know when the money comes, but it hasn't come yet. So
Yeah, let's talk about that. Like, where's your risk appetite? And at some point, did you just say, hey, we're gonna do this
yeah,
because
it was just sink or swim. I mean, I grew up in a world with two different father figures. One had a startup, the other one had a startup as well. Owns an engineering firm. My dad had a startup, and then now he's in the venture capital world. So nothing to do with real estate. It actually is funny. My stepdad and I are getting closer and closer to finding different mutual connections of, oh, hey, you're working with this architect. I've known the guy for 30 years. Like, okay, that's a small world. The world's a lot smarter than people think. But really no background in real estate from a family perspective. And yeah, I mean, it's just crazy how everything transpires. But it's sink or swim. You just you got to figure it out. And at the end of the day, if you have people that trust you, whether that be your limited partners, your investors you go to them and pitch, say, hey, I've got this project. Do you believe that I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that it gets done? So I guess growing up in the world of watching, two people start their own companies, I'm pretty risk adverse where my grandpa would not like that. I'm sure he has money tucked underneath his mattress somewhere. It's just a different vibe. Obviously, it has to be a good risk-adjusted return for everyone involved. But I believe in myself, I believe in my partners, and I believe in everyone that's a part of the project team. And so do the lenders, so do the tax credit investors, so do the people that gave us money. And if they believe, the city believes, then why can't you do it?
I
So
love that.
do you have more, Casey?
I just wanted to say I appreciated that.
I knew you would. See, I knew you too would be like, yeah. Zach, I know that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but you have a remarkable optimistic perspective, especially even when you talk about the fact that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. But I'm curious if you can shed some light on what are some of the mistakes that you've made, what are some of the cons or the challenges that you have faced, and let's just start there.
Yeah, I think one misconception, not even misconception, but thing that I knew going in, but not to the extent, is how bureaucratic development is. Even if it doesn't seem like it's political, everything's political. I knew going in development is a very political world and game, but everything is political. And so, again, surrounding yourself with the confidence to be able to go and approach neighborhood associations, your neighbors, city council, the mayor, et cetera, that's important. Having their support, obviously, because like I said, it takes a village, but it really does take a city. to do that. But also surrounding yourself with good attorneys and all the backup, right? To make sure that everything, all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted, to ensure the financial success of the project, and making sure that nothing bad happens. There's going to be some challenges, there's going to be some bumps in the road, but as long as the end goal is there, and it fits within the budget, and your income's there, then everything should be fine and dandy by the end of that.
You two are, I know a lot of people in this industry, and I mean, you're 23, Casey's 24. I don't know any other 23, 24-year-olds who are making such waves as the two of you are. Zach, what differentiates you from your peers, and what's the hardest part about being a 23-year-old who's taken on such a large project that has so much backing and support?
Confidence. Confidence, no fear of failure. I mean, I always say, like, I walk into the room and I want to control it, but I also want to walk into the room and be the youngest person there, because I'm not that smart. I just have a lot of confidence and belief in myself and my team. And I can always be learning, right? So whether that be when construction's happening and I'm walking around asking the electrician, hey, so what the hell are you doing right here? Like, explain this to me. What does the red wire do? Obviously I know what the red wire does, but you get my point of asking strategic questions to learn the entire process of it. Too many people, they'll pay someone and say, hey, here you go, do the project, Godspeed. I'll check in a year and a half and see when it's done. I don't want to do that. I want to be a part of all of it, for a plethora of reasons. A, to know exactly where the money that my investors and myself are spending, where it's going. And also to get an education on every part of the development process, because development is not just, oh, buy a building, build it and go away. There's a lot of moving pieces that go into it. So I want to learn as much as I can about all of it. Not to say I ever want to be a certified electrician, but I'd like to know how the building's getting powered, how the lights turn on, why the light switches are going in these spots, et cetera.
Well, and that also helps you have a conversation with the people who are who are on your team.
Trust. It builds trust. If people see me there with a hard hat on and a vest in my boots, and trying to learn and all that, they don't view me as oh, that's the greedy developer, blah, 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 or, oh, that's the douche who's doing the project. It's like, oh, no, that's Zach. That's what up? It's like our demo guy's been hanging out at the Aladdin the past couple of weeks, and I walk in, they're like, what up, boss? I'm like, do not call me boss. I was like, no, not that. But it's just fun. It's a good time. You can build a relationship with all those different people, and don't treat them like subcontractors. You treat them like people.
I love that. Yeah, there was a video that was posted today of you in a hard hat and boots, with maps in hand, plans in hand.
Yeah.
What would you go back and tell your 18-year-old self?
Let's think. 18 would have been 5 years ago, so almost 6 years ago. 6 years ago would have been 2018. Drop out of school and build right now, because it's land is cheaper and construction costs are cheaper.
I
I
love
always
it.
joke that I was like, damn it, I wish I was 10. And when I was 10, I wish I would have been building things. Like, God, that would have been great.
Interest rates were lower too.
Yeah, exactly. Everything was perfect. Honestly, not a whole lot. I don't like to look back in the past. You can't change the past. You can only change the future. And so, like I said, live your life with as little as regrets as possible. And I think you'll do just fine.
Yeah, when I ask that question because when I think about the people that we want to engage in conversation with, that we want to, build a community with by having these conversations and documenting these conversations, it's people like you, people like us who are making something kind of sight unseen. And yeah, I mean, when I was 10, when I was your age, right? But I love it when you and I met, you were like, oh, you're just like an older sister. And I'm like, I love it.
Yeah.
We're coming up on time. Casey, do you have any final questions?
I do. I mean, I could sit down and ask you questions for an hour, but I want to be respectful of your time.
Like I said, I love talking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is great.
I think we really appreciate you coming on, and I mean, you're our first guest, so
Let's go.
appreciate you.
I think next time we do, how about we do it live from the Aladdin?
I love that.
Love that. Yeah, I'll make my way down to Kansas City sometime soon. But
Oh, we
Zach,
have to invite you to the birthday party.
Oh yeah, you'll be there. The 24 and 24.
All right. Zach, why don't you tell everyone, where they can find more of your information or follow you and stuff like that, and then we'll kick us out.
Yeah. So Twitter is Casey Molzer. You'll find me documenting the whole project, day in life of Zach, which is fun. Lots of sad with Nebraska football, and everything in between. And then I'll be documenting the entire development process using Instagram, Molzer Development, MOLZER, and then development. So yeah, that's where you find me. I thank you guys so much for having me on. This is awesome. I'm excited to build and have everyone's support, especially your guys's. It means a lot to me.
Thanks, Zach. You're really professional.
Thank you guys.